Okay, very warm welcome to our 6th webinar in the Hiliple Federated PLM webinar series. So my name is Ringenhall. I'm coming from Lynxwork, one of the parts in this Hiliple project that has been the base of the idea of creating the webinar series. So Lynxwork, more or less founded due to the research project together with Saab and Volvo Cars. So founded at KTH, the university in Technology University of Stockholm. And we are a technology partner of Siemens Digital Industry Software as well, where we are trying to get some products to support them with adding OSLC capabilities to their toolchain, but also getting access to one of the marketplace that they have, so we can share our solutions to the Siemens audience. So the Hiliple 2 Federated PLM, the project that is kind of the founding basis of the Hiliple, the Federated PLM LinkedIn group and this webinar series. So in that, we're working together with Saab Aerospace, Volvo Cars, that has the use cases. IBM and Eurostep is coming with some of the tools that we want to connect. KTH is the research partner, and we at Lynxwork, we are the doers, the ones creating the connections between these tools. So in the project as such, we have been focusing on showing that it's fully possible and feasible to create links based on the OSLC methodology or the pattern between these tools, the YAS platform from IBM, the Eurostep Aerospace, the Polarian from Siemens, and Atlassian Jira, with configuration awareness across the links. So that's what we've been up to in this project. And we have the pattern and the genesis pattern of Saab, the yellow picture on the right that shows how Saab is seeing how they would like to have cross-discipline linking when it comes to requirement management. It might be different between systems engineering versus software engineering and hardware engineering. So in every of these nodes in this matrix picture, there might be different tools supporting the requirement management or the change control, but they need to speak with each other across the tool system, the idea behind that. And the project as such, it's governmental funded by the Swedish Innovation Agency, and it's part of a program called Advanced Digitalization. The program, our project is ending this summer, and we will end with presenting our results that we formulated in a paper on the INCOSA symposium in Dublin this summer. So there will be a chance, if you're going to the INCOSA symposium in Dublin early July, to interact and get more of the academic full-blown report and the presentation of that. But today I have more or less 3 bullets on my agenda. I've been part of this project for a while now. It's close to 1.5 years, and one of the kind of ships in my shoes has been this federation, modularity, and configuration management. So I want to just start a bit of discussion, and this is segueing actually into further research. And to be clear, these are my thoughts here that I will be sharing with you, and see if I can get you to start thinking a bit as well. So what do we mean with a federated PLM? Or could we talk about a modular engineering toolchain? What's the difference in that? Then I will go into a bit of a recap and reuse of Jos' presentation that he gave at the 5th webinar, where he presented the Federated PLM business case and the method on that. And a part of that is getting us into some of the things that we see, and also from the project, and also actually Jos agrees with us. Some of the components that are needed to enable finding this business case. And then we're not a very big team today, so we can have a bit of discussion in the end as well, to see if you think I'm on a strange path, or if there are some thoughts behind some saying behind my thoughts when it comes to the federation versus the modularity. So the challenge that we have seen in this journey is we want to have a federated engineering environment, but we also need to manage the configuration management. And creating this link between IBM's global configuration in the YES tool suite with the more PLM structure of a share space when it comes to configuration management showed some challenges. So, and I'm also adding a bit of the challenges here when I think if you have the configuration management of the systems engineering part, how do you translate that to the configuration of configurable products that are typically more like, how to say, focusing on the interfaces of things and not the federation of things. So what do you do when you think about these things nowadays? You turn to your favorite AI program to check what that says. So I looked into comparing federated architecture with modular architecture. So I found the three highlights. So federated architecture talked about the decentralized control versus a modular that is more centralized coordination. Federated loose coupling, modular more tight coupling, with more focus on the interface itself. The interfaces are strictly locked in a modular architecture. And the leading theme in federated architecture is interoperability, whereas modular is talking about reusability. So this is kind of also agreeing with my view on modularity and federated, but it's just getting going. So more details to read. So, but it's kind of the autonomy and of the control in a federation. So every part is kind of by itself controlling things. But in a modular, you normally have the rule book of the interfaces that are more strict. And the loose coupling versus the well-defined interfaces are the difference. So a couple of examples of the federated, the web, internet. Every web page is kind of independent operating, but we have a protocol that we can communicate with. A modular architecture. Well, we have someone from Lego here, quite good on the interfaces with the building blocks, how they should work. So I think you're spending quite some time on the interfaces of those. We have examples like Scania, well known for having the same doors or the same windscreen on all their trucks, but they can still create different solutions on that. Or a software application where you have distinct modules for user interface, database access, and so on. So there are some difference in the approach. And both are focusing on manage complexity and promoting scalability. These are nice features that we would like to see as well. And there are some component reuse in both approaches. And the main difference is we talk about autonomy and decentralization versus centralized control and coordination, and the tight coupling between modules and so on. I just checked with the Microsoft Copilot to get a kind of a second view to see if I get something else. So same there, interoperability. Federated is more about the communication itself. Modular is more about the interfaces. Scalability depends on component distribution in federated, and the scalability is more in adding or replacing modules and the combination of those. And the complexity comes from different parts in a federated. Then there's a complexity in the interactions between components. And in modular, then the complexity is more managed within individual modules. So we see, just based on the AI, there are some differences here. And then looking into the federated engineering environment with configuration management, how would you actually put that in your head when you start to think about it? Because we've seen throughout this project that we have the global configuration of IBM, but they are only taking care about the global configuration of the systems. And they're not really looking into the configuration of the product itself. Then you have different product configurators that is normal in PLM, either the 150% approach or the more modular structure as well. So my question to you guys that we can discuss a bit later is, we want a federated environment, but do we need the centralized configuration management? Or are there paths where we can actually think about, we can federate the configuration management as well? But then how would that work? It's a thought that I've been probably spending a bit too much time on lately. But that is not really part of the Hilipli 2 project that we're summing up now. So this is more looking forward to the next steps. And I just want to see if you guys are part of this thought line here. So before moving on, I can open up for a couple of questions or thoughts. Or do you want me to get to the chase more?
Could be fun with a discussion if we can squeeze it in.
Now, Jos, I guess Jos has plenty of opinions on this, but he's on listening mode only. So, what do you guys say? You from Lego, I think you're thinking about these things quite a bit as well in your products that you have, at least.
Oh, I would like not to go first. I must admit, this is the first time I'm here. I'm still a little bit nervous about saying something completely insane.
I can be the guinea pig then, just to open the discussion. Yeah,
perfect.
I mean, for me, personally, it feels complicated enough as it is with configuration management. So maybe to start centralized seems like already a challenge, let alone distributing it. But what I'm thinking is that, I mean, sometimes it's a confusion in the discussion. Just because we talk about federated, it feels like you need to federate everything. And that's not necessarily the case. You can still have a federated environment, but then still centralize some aspects, like configuration management. So I think it's a good question just to sort of clarify that fact that could have federated, but things can be centralized.
Yeah, I think that is along my thoughts as well. Mm-hmm. Simon, did you want to say something?
Yeah, actually, I still have to think about that. So I did miss your previous webcast, so I'm not so deep into this federated PLM topic. But from my perspective, it is more a question what is the target to be achieved. So I think if you have a federated configuration management, you will have federated configurations there for sure. Nevertheless, having a distributed or federated environment, building up some central configuration is also not very easy. So it all depends what is really federated and how close is the data related and how close are the different configurations, in my opinion. So, well, apologize of not really knowing from the beginning what federated is, but for me, federated is I have multiple entry points to form the data, right? And I don't necessarily have 100% data accuracy at all systems. And this makes overall configuration management quite tricky, I would expect.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I take it as you agree on that this is a tricky area.
Oh.
So that was my takeaway from you. Realizing through this project, we've seen that the approaches for configuration management is different if you talk about the software systems or the hardware. So how would you make this play nicely? That's been one of the challenges through the project when you have complex solutions, because we realize that it all needs to get together at some point, at least when you're realizing the product. And I'm just intrigued by thinking about this. So
I can come with a view, which is my personal view. We are also working within this space of federation, and first of all, a little bit of thoughts at least upon what I believe federation is in the context of PLM. We of course use PLM at Lego. But for me, a federal state is like the US government, where you have some centralized rules, regulations, policies, governance that is then enforced and distributed to the different states of the US, which is then enforcing these things. And then this relationship between what's centralized and distributed is of course extremely interesting. I don't think it's interesting in configuration management alone, and I think it's also a little bit what we put into configuration management. For me, configuration management a little bit like choosing to say I want the new BMW i5 with 19-inch wheels with either four-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive and so on. So for me, I think if I understood Simon correctly, I would say I think configuration management is very much federated in a situation like this where we're actually saying there might not. Let's just imagine there isn't a lot of data owned centrally. It's actually owned by a distributed environment. But centrally, we make sure that the data quality, the data integration is happening, that we make sure that overall integrity is good all the way through. And then having, I don't know, a GraphQL, a knowledge graph overview of all the different configurations, and then having local or centralized rules and regulations around what configurations do we approve of and which one do we not approve of. At least that's kind of like I know it's maybe a 30,000 feet perspective of it, but at least that's where I'm thinking it.
But yeah, I think that was a good add-in, because we need some sort of a centralized rule book at least, so we can actually do configuration management across the tool.
Maybe if I add a last point from my side, it's you can think of pushing the authority for sub configurations down to different systems, so that you have a clear knowledge about authority, what is configured where, and within the authority, it is really up to the single space to provide the complete knowledge. But it is not one single place where everything is defined, but just subdivided into several areas.
And that I agree with you, but that's where I'm started to think about the modular architecture as well, because there you're putting a focus on defining the interfaces, so you can achieve that. So that's we are somewhere in between, I would say, federated and modular thinking in this area. So it's just a bit of the thought process in here. And I see. Yeah, please.
Is it okay to I have a comment on that one. I just voicing it out to get your opinions about it. I guess that's what you use this forum for. For me, modular is actually not tightly coupled. It's actually loosely coupled, but highly aligned. You really need to have a loose coupling in your architecture, right? Otherwise we create too many dependencies. When I think about federated, I actually think modularity. So the question I would like to ask back into this group: how do you define your modules or your modular areas? Are you using domain-driven design? Or are you looking at all the events that you have throughout your PLM processes to identify, well, what are those bounded contexts, those massive areas where you could say, okay, this is a good bounded context. This is a good modular area. We could define interfaces for, etc. Just am I completely not making sense, or how does that resonate?
I think it resonates quite well as well. And this is kind of showcasing a bit of my background as well, coming from a more modular path, whereas Jade has been in more of the federated path as well throughout his research. So, and we've had this discussion throughout this project. But with that, I see that Jos has written something, some recommendation who to speak with in moving forward, and that Martin Dullert and Max Gravel believe that you should have a federated environment in place as an overlay to support configuration management questions. It cannot be a single system, however, depending on the classification of the change, you dive deeper. That answer, Jos, I need to think a bit about to see, but a good recommendation. I will try to get hold of Martin and Max to dive into. Do you guys have any more comments on that or thoughts? Otherwise, we will move on and we can continue discussion at the end. All right. So moving on. Oh, sorry. So Jos had for a few weeks back, it was in mid-April, I think, and that he had a webinar about the business case for the Federated PLM, where he used the benefit dependency network. If you missed that webinar, it's recorded. You can find it through our the LinkedIn group for the Federated PLM. So the benefit dependency network, we had an example from Microsoft where we see the business drivers, the objectives, the benefits, the business change, and the enablers and technology, and how that is kind of linking up together. So this was about the model. And then we looked into using this framework to create a business case for the aerospace, for the federated PLM, or federated engineering environment. So now I've been focusing in a bit of the result from that. So I'm leaving out the business drivers, objectives, benefits, and the changes. You can watch the webinar from last time if you want to have more that, and we also have this map available for download as well. If you cannot find that, just reach out to me so we can share it with you. So, but in the work that we've been doing in this project, we've seen that one of the enabling changes that are driving, pushing this change is the Elliptic 2 project that we've been driving now. And looking into the solution components or the technologies and tools that are needed or are relevant for finding this business case is, of course, you have your solutions, the PLM, the ALMs, your change management tools, your configuration management way of working, and maybe even your ERPs. And then you have your development environment per discipline. Of course, you need to document how you develop things. And then we identified that we need to have interfaces that should be cost effective, so you can actually connect different tools. And of course, us in this project, we like OSLC. And if the solution have the OSLC capability already, it's quite easy to connect different tools. So tools like IBM Yes already are OSLC compatible. Polarion from Siemens is that, and PTC have in the windshield have OSLC capabilities and so on. So there are more tools out there that have a ready-made adapter. But if you don't have that, that's kind of the driving idea behind our company with Lynxwork, that you can actually create those adapters yourself using the solutions that we have created. So we have a local code support to create your interfaces. And then we also saw in this work together with Jos and the rest of the team that you need to start thinking about the lifecycle management on the federated environment as well. It's not enough to have a federated environment, but you need to manage that over time, because the only thing we know, it will be changed. You will change some tools over time. You cannot go with a monolith buying everything from one, because that will also needs to be changed over time. And having the aerospace and defense focus, they might not be the quickest to change. They don't have the shortest project. Saab, in this case, the product lifecycle for their product, the main product in aerospace, that project was started back in 1982 and is still ongoing. Now they started to discuss about the next iteration of that platform, if they need to create a new platform. But it's been 40 years already. So of course they're changing tools for throughout this journey. So you kind of need to get that into the mix of things, that you need to lifecycle manage your solutions as well, that you're creating your products in. So I just want to share a few of the things that we have created along this journey that helped you, and the reason why we're creating them as well. So starting with the ShareSpace connector, that was actually created by Eurostep, not by us, using the solution that we have. So ShareSpace did not have an OSLC capability. ShareSpace is a solution built more like a PLM solution, so it's following a different standard. So they were not OSLC capable, compatible. So how could we connect ShareSpace with an OSLC-based adapter, OSLC-based solution? And in this case, as you saw in the beginning, we're connecting with the IBM YAS platform and the Polarian and the Jira. So this one is created by them. It was fairly straightforward, so you can and help me here, Jad. It's they are a consumer of a YAS information, or are they?
No, they publish their, in this case, I mean, they have a lot of product data, but we focused on requirement objects and configurations. So it was DOORS being the consumer connecting to requirements in ShareSpace.
So having requirements in ShareSpace, but to connect them to the requirements in DOORS. And having the configuration awareness from the IBM's global configuration, right?
And like, yeah, and then there was the ShareSpace configurations being contributed to the global configuration.
Okay. So that's one example of a connector that we've been creating throughout this project. We talked about the Jira Cloud. Does not have native OSLC capabilities. So in this case, from Polarian to be able to read Jira information without having to log into it with a delegated UI within Polarian or within IBM. So if you use Jira for project management, change request or whatever, you're doing that, so you can connect that to your requirement management system. If the built-in solution or off-the-shelf solution that we have created is not good enough for you, there's possibilities to enhance that using our other tool, Lynx Designer. And this one we are considering to publish free of charge. I know that typically it's Jad who says that, but if you want to try, if you're running a Jira on the cloud on your in your company, give us a shout out, and you will be able to test this to see how it works in your environment. If you want to be able to show information about from Jira in your OSLC enabled tools that you have already, if you have IBM or Polarian or something. Then another use case, we saw that SharePoint is quite often a storage place of external information. Your test reports, your lab reports from external parties. So if you have requirements in a solution, how can you actually create an OSLC-based link to see that information in your requirement management system? So making them web artifacts that you can link your requirements to, basically. So having information into different systems. Sorry. The small video in the corner that's showing the use cases. So going from a Polarian, creating a link to a document that is on the share space, and then when you have selected the document, when you save it, you can see that you get a pop-up with a preview of that information within Polarian in this case.
Worth complementing that this could also be when you approve such a specification, you might want to get a PDF and publish that in your archiving system. That will have a link to it.
All right. Yeah, exactly. So if you're publishing your requirement specification to a SharePoint for distribution, we auto-generate the link to that from the Polarian document. So you keep that link. So back to the business case here. We talked about interfaces. So now I showed you 3 examples of interfaces that we created. And these are fairly quick and easy to create. So we're talking about hours or days, not weeks or months to create these. I think actually there was the Jira connector was promised to be done in 17 minutes from scratch. So it's fairly quick, and it should be fairly cost effective to be able to create these connectors. And then we also have that part of the lifecycle management of federated environment. So in that area, we have created the Lynx Designer tool. So that's a solution developed by Lynxwork, and it's based on a YADS research from the past 10-15 years. It's a continuation of an open source project called the Leo Toolbox that we now have created a more robust tool with support around, where you can model your tool chain and the data that you want to connect. So in this example that we have on the picture, we have a requirement in Polarian, we have test cases and test scripts in a quality manager from Doors, and we have the change request in Jira. And then we can model and well, with a low-code approach, create these integrations. And the tool itself generating the data Java code using the libraries of OSLC, for instance, and other libraries. So you can generate your code easily. And what you get is both the machine interface, but also the user interface, the graphical user interface that you get out of the tool, as with OSLC. But in this, since you are creating a model of your tool chain, this tool chain can then also be, the model itself can be stored in a repository where you have your lifecycle management. So you can version manage your tool chain models. So you can manage that over time. So connecting the files behind this into a repository with the version control makes it possible to have a lifecycle management of your tool chain map, at least, and the data that you're integrating. So that's a bit of the idea behind that, both generating the code but also managing the tools that you're having. And if you would need to change any tools, you can actually update your model, generate the code, and then you can continue working. So Lynxwork is about creating solution for interoperability and traceability across the tool chain. We can add OSLC capabilities for solutions missing that. So the examples I brought here is the Jira Cloud, the ShareSpace, and the SharePoint. And using Lynx Designer, we believe you can be quite cost-effective creating new integrations, the low-code approach. And we get the lifecycle management of the toolchain map, if you like. And we are building a product company, but we are, of course, realizing that we might need to support our customers, and sometimes there might be needs for the consultancy services. So with that, that was my presentation, and with that, I open up for any questions or discussions from you guys.